I moved into a quiet cul-de-sac last year. Nothing fancy. Just a modest, two-bedroom rental while I saved up for something better. The kind of place where people wave, mow their lawns on Saturdays, and post missing cat flyers on light poles. All except one guy, Mr. Delroy. He lived across the street in an old, green-painted house with peeling siding and one working light above the porch. I assumed he was in his 60s. Thin, tall, bony shoulders always hunched forward like he was folding in on himself. I never saw him during the day, only at night, usually standing in his yard, staring at houses. Usually mine. The first time I noticed it, I was brushing my teeth around midnight. My bathroom window faces his house. I glanced out, and there he was, standing perfectly still on his porch. No phone, no cigarette, just watching. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe he was just a weirdo. Every neighborhood has one. But it kept happening. Every night, sometime after 11 o'clock, I'd catch him either on his porch or on the lawn. Staring. No expression. No movement. One night, I decided to test something. I shut off all my downstairs lights, went upstairs to my room, and peeked through the blinds. Sure enough, there he was. But this time, he was a few steps closer, standing on the curb, directly facing my bedroom window. I shut the blinds and didn't sleep that night. I brought it up casually with a neighbor, an older woman named Diane who lived 2 doors down. Her smile faded when I mentioned him. "You keep your curtains closed at night, right?" she asked. "Why?" "He has issues. No family. We try not to get involved." "Has he ever done anything illegal?" "No. That's the problem." The next day, I installed security cameras. 2 out front, 1 over the garage, and a doorbell cam. That night, I waited until 1 a.m. before checking the live feed. Nothing. Then I fast-forwarded the footage from earlier. At 12:43, my motion sensor kicked on. The front camera showed Delroy standing at the edge of my driveway. He just stood there for 8 full minutes. Then at 12:51, he turned and waved at the camera. Not a casual wave either. A slow, drawn-out one, like he knew I was watching later. I sent the footage to the police. They said unless he was trespassing or threatening me, there wasn't much they could do. "He's technically on public property," the officer said. "Creepy? Sure. Illegal? No." 2 nights later, it escalated. I came home late from work and noticed my front doorknob was wet. Not rain. It hadn't rained. The doormat had been flipped upside down. I checked my cameras. At 12:17 a.m., Delroy walked up my driveway. He stopped at the door, leaned forward, and licked the doorknob. Then he reached down, flipped the mat, and stared at the door for a solid minute before walking away. I lost it. I drove straight to the police station and showed them. This time, they agreed to talk to him. The next night, Delroy didn't show up. Or the night after that. I started sleeping better, almost convinced myself it was over. Until 3 nights later. I woke up at 3:33 a.m. to a sound. A soft, creaking noise. I thought it was a dream until I heard it again. The closet door. I reached over and flicked on the lamp. The closet was closed, but something was off. The smell. It was faint but sour, like sweat and mildew. I grabbed a bat from under the bed and crept to the closet. I flung it open. Empty. I didn't sleep again. The next morning, I reviewed all the cam footage. Nothing. But when I checked my indoor camera, one I'd hidden in the hallway for extra peace of mind, I found something that made my blood freeze. At 2:57 a.m., the hallway camera picks up movement. A figure slips out of the attic crawlspace. He's barefoot, wearing all black. It's Delroy. He walks down the hallway, opens my bedroom door, and just stands there, watching me sleep for nearly 20 minutes. Then he silently retreats and climbs back up into the attic. I called the cops mid-panic attack. They arrived and searched everything, and in the attic, they found a makeshift nest. Blankets, food wrappers, a few of my missing shirts, a Polaroid of me sleeping, and one of my toothbrushes. They arrested him without incident. He didn't say a word, just smiled the whole time. Apparently, Delroy had a master key to the homes on our block. He used to be a locksmith. We never thought to change the locks when we moved in. He had been living in my attic for at least a month, watching, waiting, getting bolder. They charged him with unlawful entry and stalking. He's behind bars now. But sometimes late at night, I still wake up and stare at my closet. And every time I do, I swear I hear it creak. When I moved into the duplex on Marrow Street, the landlord only had one rule. "Don't knock on the basement door." I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. "There's a tenant down there. Pays in cash. Never late. Never makes a sound. Don't bother him, and he won't bother you." I didn't ask more. Rent was cheap, and the neighborhood was quiet. My upstairs unit was clean, the neighbors were normal, and for the first few weeks, life was uneventful. But curiosity's a dangerous thing. Every time I passed the basement door, gray, dented, with 5 heavy locks bolted into it, I felt a chill. I never heard sounds from behind it, not even footsteps. Then came the weird smells. It started faint, like spoiled meat or stagnant water. I assumed something had died in the walls. But it got worse, and stronger near the basement door. I complained to the landlord. He brushed it off. "Old pipes," he said. "Mildew. Don't worry." That was hard to do when I noticed flies near the door. Fat, black ones buzzing around the base like they were drawn to something alive. Or rotting. One night I heard it. A dragging sound. Slow. Heavy. Like something wet being pulled across concrete. Then a low thud. It came from the basement. I leaned down, pressing my ear to the door. Silence. Then a knock. From the inside. I jumped back. I waited. Nothing else happened. The next morning, I found something on my doormat. A note. No envelope. Just a single sheet of paper folded in half. Inside, written in jagged red ink. "He's not sleeping anymore." I nearly called the cops. But what would I say? There's a quiet guy in the basement who maybe isn't asleep. I let it go until the noise started again. Every night at 2:11 a.m. sharp. First the dragging, then the thud, then the knock. It was rhythmic, predictable, like part of a ritual. I tried asking the neighbor across the hall if she heard anything. An older lady named Ms. Fielder. She just shook her head and said, "Don't ask about the basement. He doesn't like that." That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I started losing sleep. I taped black paper over the peephole because I swore I saw an eye looking through it one night. Then one day the smell disappeared. No flies, no noise, no notes, just silence. I thought maybe the guy left, until I came home late from work and found my apartment door unlocked. Nothing was missing, but in the middle of my living room floor was a single, torn photograph. It showed a man sitting in a filthy basement. Pale skin, sunken eyes, naked. His arms and legs were bent at unnatural angles, like they'd been broken and healed wrong. Behind him, nailed to the wall, were dozens of rats. Some alive, some twitching. And his mouth was open wide, like he was screaming, but the photo captured nothing but silence. On the back of the photo, "He sees you now." I called the police. They searched the basement. It was empty, no furniture, no lights, just concrete walls stained with something brown. But in the far corner, they found something behind a false panel. A tunnel. It ran beneath the building, wide enough for someone to crawl through. It led to a sub-basement no one knew existed. Inside, they found bones. Small ones. Animal mostly. But in the center of the room was a mattress, soaked with dark stains, and a series of crude paintings smeared on the walls. They showed a figure with hollow eyes climbing through a vent, crawling into bedrooms, and sitting beside people while they slept. My apartment was in one of the drawings, and my bed was clearly outlined in red. The landlord denied everything. Said he'd rented the basement to a guy named Curtis 12 years ago. The man vanished after 6 months, but the rent money kept coming. Cash in the mailbox every month. He didn't ask questions. No one ever went into the basement. Why would they? Now that they had a full investigation, they found claw marks under the floorboards, old blood between the cracks, a hidden camera in the vent that led straight into my bedroom. I moved out that night. 3 weeks later, the duplex caught fire. Arson. No suspects. But one thing survived. The basement door. Soot-covered, half-burned, but still standing. Leaning against it was a final note. Written in red. He doesn't live below anymore. He lives inside now. When I moved into the cul-de-sac on Driftwood Lane, I noticed something odd. People were always leaving, but only from one house. House number 9. It was the biggest one on the block. 2 stories, ivy-covered fence, neatly trimmed hedges. The windows were always closed. The curtains never moved. The man who lived there was named Mr. Thorne. Mid-50s, always wore a suit, even on Sundays. Polite, reserved, not overly friendly. But what stood out was that he always had someone new living with him. A young woman, a teenage boy, A middle-aged couple. Sometimes they'd show up for a month, sometimes a few days, but they always left, quickly, without saying goodbye, and no one ever saw them pack. I asked one of the longtime residents, Mrs. Grayson, if Thorne was running a BB or something. She gave me a strange look. "No, dear. They're not guests," she said quietly. "They're projects." That stuck with me. I started paying attention, watching. One night, I saw a girl, maybe 19, sitting in the upstairs window of Thorne's house. She looked hollow, pale. Her eyes were fixed on the trees across the street, like she wasn't really seeing them. I waved. She didn't move. Next morning, gone. No moving truck. No car. Just gone. A few nights later, I saw Mr. Thorne dragging something across his lawn. A tarp. Long and lumpy. He loaded it into the trunk of an old Lincoln. The next morning, the grass in that same spot was dead, like something toxic had soaked into the earth. That's when I started documenting everything. Photos, dates, new faces, departures. In 6 months, he went through 11 different residents. And no one on the street said anything. When I asked the mailman if he noticed anything strange about Thorne, he shrugged and said, "He hasn't gotten mail in years." But I saw people come to the house. Always at night. They'd knock. He'd answer. They'd step inside. Never saw them leave. Then one night, I saw a woman running. She burst out the front door of Thorne's house barefoot, covered in dirt and blood. She made it halfway across the street before Thorne caught up and tackled her. I was already dialing 911. By the time I looked back, she was gone. No blood. No scream. No trace. The cops showed up, did a brief check, and left after 20 minutes. I overheard the officer say, he showed me a marriage license. Said she had a breakdown. That's all. A week later, new face in the window. This one was a kid. 13 maybe. Skin pale as paper. Sat perfectly still in the window for hours, just like the others. That night, I made up my mind. I had to get inside that house. I waited until 3 a.m. I knew Thorne left around 2:30, always did on Thursdays. I'd seen him drive off in that Lincoln dozens of times. I crossed the street, hopped the gate, and crept around back. The kitchen window was unlocked. I slid it open, climbed in, and nearly gagged. The house smelled like formaldehyde and wet copper. It was spotless, almost surgical. No personal touches. No pictures. No clutter. Just rooms. Long, quiet hallways. And doors. So many doors. I found a locked one in the hallway with a keypad. I didn't know the code. I kept moving, found a staircase that led downward. The air grew colder with every step. The basement was massive, and the walls were lined with jars. Hundreds of them, each labeled with a name and a date. Inside the jars, teeth. Some were baby teeth. Some full molars. Some broken. I turned and saw a table covered in surgical tools. Scalpels. Forceps. Saws. Vials of unlabeled fluid. Then footsteps above. He was back. I killed the lights and ducked under the stairs, heart hammering. I heard the door creak. Slow steps descending, then humming. Low, tuneless, and cheerful. He walked past me carrying something, a tray. On it, a bowl of soup. A spoon. A slice of bread. He knocked on a metal door in the far wall. Then opened it. Inside, I saw cells. 4 of them. Caged. Concrete. Each with a person inside. Eyes wide. Silent. Too weak to scream. One of them was the boy I'd seen in the window. And then he said something that will haunt me forever. Mr. Thorne smiled and said, "Good news. One of you gets to leave tomorrow. Be thankful." He shut the door, walked back upstairs, and the moment I heard his front door open again, I ran. I ran like my life depended on it. I didn't call the cops. I knew what they'd say. I'd tried that before. Instead, I sent everything I documented, photos, footage, notes, to a true crime journalist I followed online. Within 48 hours, a full federal raid hit house number 9. What they found made headlines for weeks. For survivors, 132 jars of extracted human parts. Documents about behavior correction, personality restructuring, and twisted soul harvesting. And a basement blueprint going 6 levels deep, only 3 of which had been explored. Mr. Thorne was never found. They think he had a tunnel leading to the forest, and he knew the raid was coming. But that house, it still stands. It's boarded up now. Crime scene tape faded in the sun. But sometimes, when you walk by at night, the upstairs curtain moves, and a pale face looks out, silently mouthing, "Help me."